Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description.
Walking along the quiet streets of Konoha, I thought. Since it was early in the morning, there were few people. I got into the habit of getting up early during my journey with Jiraiya. Inhaling the smell of freshly baked goods, I bought a few buns and a cup of coffee at the only bakery designed for shinobi who were returning from patrols or missions and vice versa. Sitting on a bench, I chewed a bun and washed down the coffee. My meal was interrupted by several ANBU shinobi. What did the old lady need? But the bun and the glass of coffee fell out when the old man appeared, and then an order and darkness. There was a crowd in the Hokage's office. All the jonin in the village were there. Of course, the Jinchuriki had disappeared. Sakura, I don't know where Naruto is, they're looking for him. Tsunade looked tired and worried. The Jinchuriki has disappeared, and right in the village. Tsunade-sama, I asked permission to join the search. Hatake Kakashi was extremely collected, the relaxation and tired look were gone, only the burning pain remained. Had he really lost Naruto too? No, Kakashi, ANBU will take care of this. Tsunade said and leaned back tiredly in her chair. Now the old man will come and lecture her and nag her. Lynx. Yes, Hokage-sama. The ANBU in the lynx mask responded. Comb the area 20 kilometers from the village. Hi, Hokage-sama, the fighter dissolved into Shunshin. Everyone is free. Tsunade said. The shinobi disappeared into the Shunshin except for Hatake and Sakura. Kakashi, she called the jonin. Watch them. Hi. Jonin replied and walked out of the office with Sakura, who was holding back her tears. It was dark and terribly cold. I was lying on a cold table in my underwear, strapped in. The old man's voice, terrible pain, and then darkness. I was wandering in a dark space, absolute darkness, no sound, only breathing. I was blinded by a bright flash and found myself in a bright space. Two figures were heading towards me. The first was a tall woman with an hourglass and strange beads with numbers, and the second, a pale old man with long hair, sagging skin and a robe, a dagger on his belt and beads on his neck. Who are you? I asked them. Shinigami, god of death, the old man introduced himself in a grave voice. Alona is the goddess of time, the woman said in a velvety voice. And what do you want from me? He asked them very calmly, because he didn't really want to anger the gods. Naruto, you are the child from the prophecy and you must go into the past, correct the mistakes and prevent the birth of Jubi, the old man informed me in a warmer voice. How will I do this? He began asking questions. You will eat the fruit of Shinju, and so that you live to the present time, we will grant you immortality. The god of death continued to broadcast. Tell me what awaits me there, far away, in the past? And they began the story. An hour later they finished. So, by eating the fruit I will become a god? He asked directly. Yes and no, you will be like a god, but you will never stand on par with us, Shinigami answered. I agree, I answered evenly. A smile crept onto the faces of the gods, if the Shinigami's grin could be called a smile. And our last gift to Uzumaki Naruto, we give you 2 scrolls, one with all the known techniques of the shinobi world, and also a scroll with all the known Fuinjutsu. The goddess gave me a warm smile. Then Shinigami spoke. It's time for you, Naruto, don't let us down. God said, and then everything went dark. Commentary on prologue. First time writing, beta is on, look for errors if it's not too much trouble for you. Ouch, I woke up not far from some village, the only clothes I had on were a beige kimono. After sitting for about 10 minutes, I got up and headed towards the village. While I was walking, I thought about my situation, and so until the chakra fruit ripens, a little more than a year, then I was transported back 1,000 years plus or minus 10 to 15 years. I have 2 scrolls in my hands that Orochimaru will dream about in the future, but he will not get them, hee. I was brought out of my thoughts by a young man's cry. Wait, who are you and where are you from? Asked the man in a kimono with armor on his chest and a spear in his hands. His partner was dressed exactly the same. I am a traveler who came to your village to replenish supplies. Realizing that I am not dangerous and do not carry weapons, they let me through. After passing the gate, I found myself on the territory of the village, although its area was like two Uchiha quarters. I went out onto a large street along which stood wooden one-story houses on a stone foundation. After the residential area there was a market, a couple of restaurants and a small pond with several benches, and the whole view was completed by a two-story palace, although in Konoha every merchant had such a house. My stomach growled, and since I had no money, I had to use the seal of submission on the owner of the restaurant. While I was eating, a red-haired waitress with a rather cute face was jumping around me. "Girl," I said to her, "sit with me, I'm bored." I smiled at her. "I'm Naruto, what's your name?" "Skira," the girl answered shyly. "Tell me about yourself," I said calmly. "I'm Skira, I'm 18 years old and I work here," the girl answered, embarrassed. "I am Naruto Uzumaki, I am 17 years old and I am a traveler," I answered honestly. And so we continued until the evening. "Kagaya will arrive soon," the goddess of time said with disgust. "Naruto must kill her," said Shinigami. "Can he do it?" she asked. "Without the Shinju fruit, she is an ordinary person, even though she is from another world," the god of death answered. "But won't Naruto fall into darkness like she did?" The goddess did not calm down. "No, there is no hatred or malice in him, he has a balanced energy of light and darkness, which cannot be said about Kagaya," the god of death finished. "Hokage-sama," Lynx flew into the office. "What?" She almost turned gray from such a scream. The body of Uzumaki Naruto was found. Realizing that he was now superfluous, Lynx disappeared into the Shunshin. "Gi, then Naruto," Tsunade said, sobbing, and then began to roar at the top of her lungs. -3 days after the discovery of Uzumaki Naruto's corpse. A lot of people gathered at the cemetery, everyone was dressed in black clothes. "Today we bury a man, a friend, a hero, simply a golden man." Tsunade somehow held back her tears, but continued. "Uzumaki Naruto," the Hokage said with a tremor. Sakura started to cry, and Kakashi drooped next to her. After Tsunade's speech, people started to approach the tombstone. "Come back Naruto," Sakura whispered and roared loudly as she walked away. "I'm sorry, Minato-sensei, for not protecting him," Hataki whispered and left the cemetery. Scarai and I walked around the village, talked about simple little things and trifles. We felt good. We reached the park and sat down to rest on a bench. Scarai started the conversation. "Naruto, I know that soon you will continue your wanderings, and I want to go with you," the girl said, a little embarrassed. Then I remembered Hinata. She was also embarrassed, but much more so than Skira. "Yes, but I can't take you with me," I didn't lie to the girl, "she can't go the way that I have to go." "Why?" she asked, offended. "My path is long and dangerous and I cannot risk you, and I am leaving in 2 days." "Naruto," the girl cried and ran away. "Better this way than just leaving." -2 days later. I approached the village gates. I did not see Scarai again. My path lay no Kuni, that is where the chakra fruit grows and that is where Kagaya will appear. Flashback. I woke up from a bright light. As soon as my eyes got used to the light, I looked around. This was the place where I talked to the gods. "Naruto, I don't have much time, soon a woman will come to Earth, her name is Kagaya, she was the one who ate the chakra fruit. But it drove her crazy and she created the illusion of Mugen Tsukuyami and plunged most of the people into it, who served as fertilizer for the new Shinju fruit." "But why do you think I won't become like that?" I asked point blank. "You don't have the darkness that Kagaya had, you have balance, that's why you are the chosen one, Naruto Uzumaki." The goddess's voice faded and I disconnected. End of flashback. I looked around the village one last time and noticed Scaru in the distance, his eyes wet with tears. "Wait for no Kuni, I'm coming," I said and set off. Commentary on New World and New Acquaintances. I wrote from my phone, tomorrow there will be 2 more chapters. I had been on the road for 3 months. During this time I met many people and they were all going away from the war that Kan no Kuni had unleashed against no Kuni. There was a little over a month left before Kagaya arrived. I would arrive in no Kuni in 2 weeks. I was distracted from my thoughts by women's screams and the smell of smoke. About 500 meters away from me a village was burning, and 4 girls were running towards me, one of them with a child. Man, help us, our village is being robbed and people are being killed, we somehow escaped. The girl with the child said, almost crying. Of course, I shouted and ran to the village. There were 15 armed men in the village. I still had taijutsu, so I quickly scattered the bandits and began the interrogation. Why did you attack the village? I asked one of the bandits menacingly. Fuck you, he shouted, and I pressed on his hand and he screamed. Once again, why did you attack the village? I pressed on the robber's hand, causing it to crack. We were sent by the minister of Ka-no-kuni Genbu to prepare a camp, since our army is moving here, and since the army of So-no-kuni is fighting on the northern border against Hira-no-kuni, our army will have to attack them from behind. The bandit answered truthfully. I see, I said angrily. Half an hour later, I tied up the bandits and moved towards So-no-kuni. He didn't kill them, said a velvety voice. I said that there is balance in it, the grave voice finished. For 2 weeks of travel I did not come across a single bandit or troop. I stopped at the large gates of the capital So-no-kuni. I will spend the night here and go to the tree. Wait, who are you? The man asked menacingly. He was wearing armor that concealed his torso and a helmet on his head. His companions were wearing exactly the same armor, but with spears. Traveler, I answered quietly. The entrance to the village is closed, the man said imperiously. Okay, sorry, I turned around and walked in the other direction from the village. Okay, let's go straight to the tree, we need to end this war. I reached the tree in 5 days. It was huge, but on the trunk a little over a meter there was a branch on which there was a single fruit or chakra fruit. Having plucked the fruit, I began to eat it. Arf! I screamed, my eyes hurt terribly, my body was ready to explode. This lasted for about 5 minutes, and then the pain subsided. Opening my eyes, I saw something that is beyond the control of an ordinary person, and am I a person now? Chakra filled my body. I thought about the mirror and it appeared in front of me. I looked into it and saw my reflection, Rinnegan with 9 blue tomo in each was burning in my eyes, my hair grew to my buttocks and became white, behind me were visible 9 Gudadama. Naruto, the voice of the goddess of time called out to him. Now you need to absorb the tree, for full control of Shinju you will have to sit in meditation for 6 months, after that you will understand what power you have acquired. But what about protection? I was surprised. Yes, Shinigami was right, you will be able to tame Shinju Naruto, the goddess laughed. You are the progenitor of the chakra, create any barrier and that's it. Finished the goddess. Exactly. I shouted and created the most powerful barrier that was in the scroll. And sat down in a meditation pose. Good luck Naruto, said the goddess and disappeared. A month since Naruto's meditation began. Kagaya's POV. They accused me of treason, killed my friend and most importantly who? The one I loved with all my heart. I will take revenge on them and the chakra fruit will help me with this, Kagaya screamed while walking to the tree. What? Why can't I get through, where is the fruit? Kagaya screamed, they'll kill me. Stop, Kagaya. The man in armor shouted. No, you betrayed me, Tenji. I screamed. You're under arrest for treason, the man said loudly. Tie her up, he ordered. No, Tenji, please, don't. I begged him. I'm sorry, the man said quietly and his consciousness faded. End of Kagaya's POV. -6 months later. I opened my eyes and saw the world in all its beauty, I felt the natural energy with every cell of my body. The power raging inside me settled down, behind my back were 10 Gudadama, and in the Rinnegan there were 10 Tomo. My muscles did not even swell, and my hair grew to my heels. Having removed the barrier, I moved towards the village, but when I arrived the village was ablaze, and in the basement of one of the houses a woman was screaming. Calmly tearing out the grate I helped the woman with white hair down to her heels and Byakugan in her eyes to get up. Kagaya? I asked, dumbfounded. Thank you for your help, yes that is my name, and who are you? She asked me calmly, but when she saw my eyes she screamed. It was you who stole the fruit. She tried to hit me, but I calmly blocked her blow and put a paralysis seal on her. You have chakra, where does it come from? I asked her. I won't tell you anything, she shouted. It's your business, but this seal can last forever, and you won't live forever, alas. I turned to leave, but she called out to me. Okay, I'm from the Otsutsuki clan, we have chakra, the girl said calmly. I wish I could do it right away, I smiled at her. And walked on. Remove the seal, the girl shouted, exactly the seal. I went up to her and removed the seal. Goodbye, I told her. Wait, take me with you, the girl almost begged. Turning to her and smiling, I said. Okay, and we headed out of the village. He didn't kill her or even seal her, yes. I was right, this man will bring this world to peace, said the god of death. I never doubted him, Alona said with a smile. And so Naruto's abilities. Mastery of all 5 elements, on Myoton Mastery, Rinne Sharingan, he can do all 6 paths without bodies and yes, he doesn't have it in his forehead, brrr, it looks disgusting, he has it in both eyes. A true master of seals, with a giant amount of chakra, more chakra than Kagyu in canon, since he completely merged with the 10-tailed one. Opening any dimension, resurrecting people, but only once every 10 years and no more than 100 people. Well, I couldn't resist, I want resurrection, senjutsu on extreme control, that is, constant maintenance in the body and without markings or any signs at all, immortality, but he can be sealed, he can seal himself, but this will not be his anytime soon, absorption of any technique, high-quality genjutsu, able to influence the thoughts of other people or force them to follow his orders, directly. Directing his will through them. Since Shinju is no more, then there is no canon either. I have not yet come up with an enemy that Naruto can defeat with difficulty, you can come up with your own. Since the entire plot will revolve around Naruto, then the war will most likely be against other Otsutsuki, we are not touching the human world yet, there, Naruto will only watch and prevent terrible events or those that can shake the world, like in Avatar on when he ended all the wars, we will touch on the shinobi world maybe in part 2 if there will be one. Uchiha and Senju will not fight like other clans. Kurozetsu, no, maybe I will even come up with a single country. Hagoromo and Himura will be the progenitors of clans, as in canon. Kagyu and Naruto will fall in love with each other, yes I want that. There will be number 9 Bijou. Well maybe only Kurama, I will think about it. For now only such plans. You can offer your ideas. 3 months after meeting Kagyu. After meeting Kagyu, 3 months passed. We continued to travel around the world, since we are now the first owners of chakra, the journey went much faster. Kagyu was offended at me, but not for long, after I promised to protect her, the offense disappeared, although she pretended to be sulking. Flashback. Naruto, I have something to tell you, Kagyu began. When we stopped for the night. I'm listening, I answered cheerfully, setting up the tent. Naruto, you must know why I needed the chakra fruit. My father and uncle sent me here to watch over the tree. Kagyu said worriedly, they never loved me and wanted to absorb the Shinju to extend their life and increase their abilities. They have the Byakugan and Rinnegan, until all the chakra in my dimension runs out, they will not come to Earth, but our tree is not infinite and there is enough chakra in it for 300 to 400 years and only after that time will they come here for a new fruit. Kagyu finished. I was sent here by the gods to prevent your tyranny and to establish peace, I began more harshly, which made Kagyu shudder. I did it, and I will certainly not allow any of your relatives to come near this world. I finished. I hope so Naruto, I hope so. She came up and hugged me. Thank you, Kagyu, I answered quietly. END flashback. While we were traveling, I stopped all the conflicts that we encountered along the way, using my influence on people. I already had a high level of Rinnegan, but far from perfect. I also mastered on Myoton. After that, I shared chakra with Kagyu and her Byakugan began to see hundreds of kilometers ahead, and she also mastered all 5 elements and I gave her scrolls to study, her control was high, but far from perfect, there is room to grow. I continued to improve Fuinjutsu and I gradually succeeded, but I was far from fully comprehending all my abilities. Hey you! We turned around and saw a strong man, tall and strong, give me your things and I won't kill you, the man yelled. Here is my first follower, I thought. Man, why do you need this, why do you do evil? I began to ask in a calm man's voice. I do not want to influence him with my will, I need to start teaching people ninju, And this is possible only by one's own will. Don't lecture me, boy, or I'll kill you, the man shouted loudly. Try it, I grinned. I decided that I would use only weak taijutsu so that he would understand that he was worthless. He ran at me, but calmly reacted and moved to the side and kicked the man and sent him flying. Approaching him, I asked, "Did you see the difference between us?" "Yes," he croaked. I started treating his broken ribs, and a minute later the guy was as good as new. "How did you do that?" The man was surprised. "If you don't attack me anymore, I'll teach you," I smiled and extended my hand to the man. "I promise," he said in response. Half a year later, I formed a loyal following around me and began to teach them ninshu. Our friendship with Kagyu grew into a relationship, and a month later we decided to get married. I mastered Onmyoton and Rinnegan to perfection, but Fuinjutsu was very difficult. I will also go to Myobokuzen to study the hermit mode tomorrow. Flashback. I was sitting on the riverbank, Kagyu was lying on my lap and weaving a wreath of bells. And I was thinking about what to do next. When suddenly I heard KVA, a small orange toad with a medallion on which was written oil. "You're not just a toad?" I asked the toad directly. "Yes, you guessed it, I received a message from the gods to help you in Senjutsu," said the toad. "Explain to me what Senjutsu is, Toad," I began. Gamaru, the toad, introduced himself and began to talk about Senjutsu. "I'm ready. If this helps me increase my control over chakra, then I'm ready." "When you are ready, put these signs together," he said, and showed 3 seals, then disappeared in a cloud of smoke. "Are you staying for long?" Kagyu asked me. "I'll be back before your relatives arrive," I decided to joke. "Very funny." Kagyu snorted and buried her face in my shoulder. "Don't be angry." I kissed her on the top of her head, which made her wince. "Be careful," she hugged me, and we sat like that until the evening. End of flashback. After saying goodbye to Kagyu and the students, I made seals and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Myobokuzen met me with many different trees and waterfalls with toad oil, and not far from them sat Gamamaru with a pipe. Seeing me, he jumped up to me. "Well, let's begin the training." The toad smiled contentedly. "Yes," I nodded my head. "First, strip to the waist and begin meditation." That's how my training began. About half a year passed in toad time, and in the real world only a month. During these 6 months, I increased my control so much that I could stand on one needle that was on a board, and the board was lying on a very high peak. Gamamaru was in shock, if not out of it. "Naruto, in these 6 months you have mastered control so much that even I was surprised," said the toad. "You are the second user of Senjutsu after me, and you have surpassed me." Finished the toad. "Oh, you're embarrassing me," I blushed. "Now Naruto, we will learn Toad Taijutsu," said the toad. Another 6 months passed. I mastered Taijutsu and Kenjutsu. "Naruto, I taught you everything I knew myself, so your training is over." He took out a white cloak with 10 tomo on the back, a high collar, and with the inscription Rakudo Sanin across the entire cloak. "Thank you," I bowed and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. "Don't let Naruto down, the world is counting on you," the toad said and galloped off into the house. Commentary on the journey continues and Kaguya's confession. 2 chapters because my power went out today. My own village and unexpected news. After my return from the Toad Mountain, 2 months passed, during which time Kagyu found a great place to build our family nest. Since we own all 5 elements, it was not difficult for us to build a village. We built the village in a couple of hours, and furnished it in an hour. Oh, and how did we build everything so quickly? It's simple, I got interesting elements wood and steel, so the houses were strong and reliable. As for my students, their moral and physical qualities have increased to a level higher than before. Kagyu achieved phenomenal chakra control without anyone's help, which surprised me greatly. We got married right after my return and the construction of the village. We had a great time, haha. Well, and then the wedding night as expected, and it was something. Flashback. The fireworks died down, all the alcohol that was at the festivities was drunk, and there were 2 festivities, the day of the village foundation and our wedding with Kagyu. During this day we heard a lot of wishes and congratulations, as well as toasts and much more. Kagyu and I left the clones closer to midnight and ran away to our home. I was lying on the bed in a wedding kimono and thinking about today, when suddenly I heard the creaking of the bathroom door and Kagyu came out completely naked. Her chest in the moonlight was like pearls, her hair like a white river. With slow confident steps she walked towards me, her chest swayed from which I instantly got hard. I did not keep myself waiting long and was left completely naked. My friend really wanted this girl and he got her. Kagyu saw him and smiled predatorily and came up to me and quietly whispered, "I will empty it completely." Taking it with her hand she kissed me. I took her by the elastic ass and pushed her onto the bed. I began to kiss her neck and going down to her chest I heard a moan, from which my desire increased many times and I did not hold back and entered her. We had sex for a very long time, so we finished closer to the morning. End of flashback. I sat in the center of the circle. Around me were my students to whom I instilled the ideals of Ninshu. I noticed that over time, the chakra from their bodies evaporates and remains in small quantities, so I realized that those people who did not possess it initially, but received chakra from in it, cannot hold it in the body and it evaporates. With Kagyu this did not happen because she initially possessed chakra. Naruto Dano, a boy with jet black hair, asked me, reminding me of Sasuke in some way. I'm listening. If you say that Ninshu teaches goodness, then why do you think that people do not use it for evil? The guy asked an interesting question. Even if you were to use Ninshu for evil, my mission is to eliminate that person or group. But people can unite against you. Even my children will not possess half of my power, not to mention their descendants. I see, he finished. Another month passed. The village prospered and grew, a market and the first hotels appeared. People went where there was no war and where there was a person capable of protecting them. I sat on the terrace and looked at my village and thought about the peace that was not in the future between the countries. I was distracted by the sweet palms of my wife who hugged me around the neck, and her chin buried in the top of my head. Naru, Kagyu began, I'm pregnant, Kagyu said quickly and completely hid her face in my hair. I'm glad, very glad, I said and kissed her. But then my heart became restless and I decided to visit Gamamara. Darling, I urgently need to go to Gamamara, I hugged her. Just for a little while, she asked me. I promise. I folded the seals and went to Myobokuzen. Myobokuzen. I found myself on Toad Mountain, but not in a blooming and fragrant one, but in a burning and almost scorched desert. I heard the sounds of battle and ran there. Gamamaru and a couple of other toads were confronting the hedgehogs, but they had no chance against their armor. Behind the toads, tadpoles were swimming in a small pond. Naruto, the toad shouted to me. What's going on, Gamamaru? I asked while blocking the dagger that was thrown at me. Hedgehogs, they want to take over our land, I don't understand how they found the way, shouted the toad, dropping another hedgehog. His comrade pierced their heads with a sword. I decided not to hesitate and quickly neutralized all the hedgehogs with paralysis seals. Gamamaru exhaled. Naruto, thank you, these tadpoles owe their lives to you, he pointed to the pond. I started feeling negative energy here and came to help, I replied. How long will your paralysis seal last? Asked Gamamaru. They can accept any chakra, even nature's. This is my best seal, but it is far from perfect, I informed him. I see, thanks Naruto, we'll do the rest ourselves, said the toad, and I folded the seals and disappeared with a puff of smoke. Hedgehogs who imagine themselves to be the kings of the domains. I returned to the real world very worried. An attack of one domain on another is something from fantasy. Each domain has its own entrance and is very secret, no one can just get there. But maybe I'm wrong, I need to think about it. I went towards the kitchen. When I entered I saw Kagyu cooking something. When she saw me, she rushed to hug me. How are things? She asked, still hugging me. Bad, very bad. The domains have started a war, although how they penetrate each other I have no idea. I answered. And what will you do? She asked anxiously. I think we need to go through all the domains and find the instigator. I didn't hide my plans. And for how long? I have no idea, maybe a year, maybe 5, but we need to nip the problem in the bud. I know, Kagyu began sadly, but you'll have to come back for the birth, understand? She shook her fist at me. Necessarily. How long until you leave? I think in 2 days. Okay, I'll prepare everything necessary, Kagyu said and ran to the kitchen. 2 days later. Naruto, come back soon, I heard the last phrase before being transferred to the Toad Mountain. The mountain greeted me with only newly restored trees and waterfalls. Naruto, the toad shouted when he saw me. Gamoru, how are things here? I asked the noticeably grown toad. Let's go to Naruto's house. He beckoned to me and galloped towards the house. Entering the house, we sat down to drink tea. Everything is bad, Naruto, the toad began. The domains started wars, but it's not clear why, and who organized them. I'll try to figure out what's going on. But I'll have to visit every domain, I finished. Take this tadpole, I named him Fukasaku, he will help us communicate. Well, Fukasaku, I looked at the tadpole and shouted forward. Disappearing into the smoke. Good luck, Naruto, the toad whispered. I found myself in some kind of cave and immediately 2 snakes wrapped themselves around me and hissed. Don't resist, man, one of the snakes hissed, but immediately loosened its grip, as did the second. Sorry for the impolite address, Naruto Dano, a medium-sized snake crawled out towards me. It's just that there's a war now and you don't know who your enemy is and who your friend is. I understand, Hakuja and I am a snake, he hissed. How do you know me, Hakuja-san? I asked with interest. How could I not know the first user of chakra, the snake hissed. So what is the war about? I asked. Not here, Naruto. And crawled towards one of the entrances to the cave. Entering, I was amazed at the high ceilings and the huge throne on which the snake crawled. He beckoned me to him with his tail. It all started about a week ago. We were attacked by hedgehogs. How they found the passage I don't understand, said the snake. The hedgehogs also attacked the toads, I began. They fought off the attack, but burned almost all the trees. We don't have trees, but they spat fire at the soot on the walls. He pointed his tail at the walls. Okay, thanks for the information, I thanked the snake and headed for the exit. Naruto, destroy the enemy, my snakes are very timid, I heard before disappearing into the cloud. This time I found myself in a place where there was slime and water, and in the middle of the hall sat a huge slug. Hey! I shouted. And who is Hedgehog here again? The slug prepared to spit acid or something else. No, I'm Naruto Uzumaki, I shouted to the slime and seemed to calm down. I'm sorry, Naruto, the slug said. I just thought the hedgehogs had returned, they wouldn't touch me, but they would simply eat my daughter Katsuya. He moved away and I saw a small slug. So there are hedgehogs here too? Yes, they've gotten completely out of hand, said the slug. Okay, Katjima, the slug introduced itself. Okay, Katjima-san, I'll figure it out. I'm counting on you, I heard after him. I again found myself in a place unfamiliar to me, but before I could come to my senses, a fireball flew at me. I calmly dodged it. Now this is a real fight, I thought. Kato, fire absorption. I exhaled a stream of flame that turned into a flurry of fire, destroying everything in its path. Sweat-ton, water wall. Yeah, got you. Raten, electric discharge. The hedgehog was simply incinerated. And that's all. I was surprised, but it didn't happen. I heard the sound of water, turned around and saw a powerful stream of water. Doton, stone wall. Why did you come, man? Said a huge hedgehog in black armor with a huge wakizashi on his back. Because you can't destroy other domains, I said. We must rule the world of summoning and we will destroy all domains. Do you have enough strength? I grinned. Oh, you little bugger, but before he could finish speaking, he fell down dead. What have you done? One of the hedgehogs yelled. He's in Genjutsu, I didn't deny. I'll get him out of it now, but I'll seal your domain forever and you'll never come to other domains again. Fuck you, the same hedgehog shouted. Doton, burial. Raten, lightning discharge, the earth shattered into small pieces. It's time to seal everything. I stood on a small circle around which were toad, slug, and snake. The hedgehogs imagined themselves to be the kings of the world and I sealed them. I finished the story. Thank you, Naruto, said all three of them and disappeared in clouds of smoke. Please, I said into the void. Meanwhile, he didn't kill anyone again, amazing guy, Shinigami said smiling. I agree, it was not for nothing that we chose him, Alona answered cheerfully. Childbirth and training. A month has passed since my journey through the domains. Kagaya is about to give birth. And my nerves are at their limit. This will require feeding, teaching, and many other things. Well, Kagaya will feed and take care of them, and they are still far from studying. Naruto, Kagaya screamed, which made me drop my mug of tea and run to her. What? I burst into the room. Labor has begun, she almost squealed. Right now, I ran to the bathroom, so I need a towel and warm water. Grabbing the towel, I activated the seal and filled the basin with warm water and ran to the bedroom. Well, I'm ready to deliver the baby, I said joyfully but excitedly. Faster, Kagaya shouted and the labor began. 5 hours later. It was long, but it was worth it. I had 3 wonderful children, 2 boys and 1 girl, and all 3 of them had snow-white eyes. Kagaya was already sleeping, and next to her were snoring cute little angels, my little angels. A year later. A year has passed since the birth of Hagoromo, Hamura, and little Yuri. Kagaya and I decided that the boys would join Otsutsuki Ikuzoku, and Yuri would join Uzumaki Ikuzoku. After a couple of months, I began to sense very powerful chakra in Hagoromo and Hamura, and in Yuri, in addition to chakra, a very strong will, much stronger than that of the boys combined. After 6 months, all 3 were already running, but not very confidently. Closer to their first birthday, they began to pronounce their first words, but they all boiled down to 3 single words: Mom, Dad, eat. 2 years later. When all 3 of them turned 3, I began their training in chakra control. The boys were very good at control for their age, but Yuri was not so good. My former students became almost ordinary people, but stronger than any person without chakra. They are also much more cultured and spiritually stronger than ordinary people. Kagaya decided to start training area ninjutsu from slugs, and so after the children turned 3, she galloped off to Shiketsuren. Only Naruto can heal without training. Daddy, Yuri's sweet voice squeaked, why can my brothers walk on water, but I can't? She stamped her foot. Look, I pointed at the boys standing on the water without moving a single thing. Hagoromo and Hamura are standing on the water peacefully, not even distracted by your squeak and not running to me with questions. Well, Daddy. If you master water control, I will teach you seals, I intrigued the girl. Hooray, the little girl squealed and ran to the pond. A week later. Another week passed, the children were already calmly running on the water, and as promised, I began to teach Yuri seals. The boys wanted to hone their control for now and refused to be taught. Yuri, today I will start teaching you seals, but first I will tell you what seals are and Fuinjutsu in general. I began. Fuinjutsu is a technique with which you can seal anything and anyone. For example, I can seal our entire house or even a village if it were possible. You should have seen those eyes. Can I do the same? My daughter asked me. Of course, but first you need to practice your handwriting. I gave her a scroll and ink. Write your name 10 times, the same number of times as your brother's names and mine. Okay, the girl replied and began to write. So 2 more years passed. Yuri learned the paralysis seals, spatial pocket, spatial trap, partial destruction seal dash. Hagoromo and Hamura owned futon, katon and doton, and Yuri suiton and raiton. In the guise, I felt a predisposition to all 5 elements and on Mayaton, unlike Yuri, although she also felt on Mayaton, but not as much as the guys, but no one has used their elements yet, it's too early for them. Kagaya returned 3 months after starting training with Yuri. She mastered the art of healing wounds without seals and regenerating limbs, from which Katjima awarded her the title of true area ninjutsu user. Seeing that Yuri had learned control, Kagaya began to teach her area ninjutsu. When she turned 7, she would take her to be trained by the slugs, just like I did with the guys on the Toad Mountain. In general, over these 5 years, the children have become much stronger. And Kagaya and I have grown up. Commentary on childbirth and training. Partial destruction technique. The user places a seal on any part of the enemy's body and it is destroyed. Training on Toad Mountain and first vision of Gamamaru. 2 years later. Another 2 years passed. Yuri began to study elemental techniques like the guys, but she was drawn to seals, so she did not devote enough time to elemental training, but the guys, on the contrary. On the children's 7th birthday, we pleased them with the news that in a week all 3 of them would be sent for further training in the domains. A joyful cry was heard throughout the village. In my absence, I left a clone who would watch over the village. The week flew by unnoticed and the day of our departure arrived. So now we'll go to the domain, I began. For the summoning you need blood. A drop of blood is enough, but only on the condition that you have a contract with the summoning animal. I can get into the world of the domain without blood and take people with me, so now I'll transfer you, and then it's up to you. Got it? I more or less explained to the guys. They nodded. I folded the seals, and the guys took hold of me and we disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Toad Mountain. We found ourselves near Gamamaru's house. While we were walking to the house, the boys were turning their heads, but a boy's voice distracted them from this matter. Naruto Dano, a green toad with chestnut eyebrows, galloped up to me. Fukasaku? I was surprised. How tall you've grown. I'm already 24, the toad boasted, but by toad standards I'm still small. Dad is already 98. By the way, where is Gamamaru? In the house, playing with Shima. The toad pouted. Why aren't you playing? I asked him. Dad sent you to meet him, the toad waved off. I see. Well, the call. I was not allowed to finish when a toad almost 2 meters tall came out of the house with a purple toad on his shoulder. Naruto. The toad waved at me. Gamamaru? I even sat down. Ahahaha, the toad laughed. Well, you've grown up. I saw you when you were little, I smiled. Are these your children? Asked Gamamaru. Hagoromo and Hamura, I introduced the children. Hello, Mamoru-san, the children answered. Well, your training will start tomorrow, Gamamaru began. Fukasaku, show the boys their rooms, and you, Naruto, follow me. After entering the hall where the toad usually sat, we approached the throne with a large ball in front of it and Gamamaru began to speak. Naruto, I had a vision that a war was coming and your children would not play the last role in it. Otsutsuki? I asked. The toad replied. And how long until they arrive? A little over 100 years. And me? Why don't you see me in this battle? I began to question him. You will, but you will not take the main fight next to your children, but against a certain Momoshiki. He is the only one who can kill your children, the toad finished gloomily. And Kaguya? I persisted. I didn't see her, the toad became even more gloomy. Okay, Naruto, this is my first vision so you can't rely on it. The toad answered a little more cheerfully. I hope, Gamamaru, I hope. As Gamamaru said, the training began in the morning. Sleepy children, stripped to the waist, trudged to one of the waterfalls under which they had to sit as long as possible, so their endurance and fortitude would be strengthened. But since the waterfall was icy, the boys flew out from under it like a bullet. If you sit under this waterfall for 2 hours, you will strengthen your spirit. If you sit for 4 hours, you will strengthen your mind. If you sit for 6 hours, you will strengthen your will. If you sit for 8 hours, you will strengthen your body. If you sit for 12 hours, you will become a conductor of natural energy, Gamamaru concluded. But he's ice. Hagoromo shouted. If you can't control your body, how are you going to control the energy of nature? Gamamaru asked. Got it, the children answered sluggishly and went to the waterfall. After n number of attempts, the boys managed to sit for half an hour. That's enough for today, Gamamaru shouted. That was the end of the first day of training. A month later. A month has passed, the guys still managed to sit for 12 hours under the waterfall, which means it's time to start further training. Today we will start meditations, but these are not the meditations that your father showed you. There you went into your subconscious, that is, you distanced yourself from the world. In these you should not go into your subconscious, but should remain on the surface, and only then will you be able to feel the energy of nature. At first, the guys went deep into themselves, but over time this depth decreased. 5 months later, the guys were already holding on to the surface of consciousness very well, which made Gamamaru very happy. And so the difficult stage of collecting and retaining natural energy remains. We have to sit on that peak over there. Hamura pointed to a peak about 30 meters high. No, laughed Toad, you're still a long way from there. Then what? Hamura persisted. You must stand on this reed without the help of chakra. Toad pointed to the reed lying on the stones, from which the guy's eyes looked like saucers. That's impossible, Hagoromo said indignantly. Naruto, the toads called me, show me. I calmly stood up and continued reading. The book is very interesting about the foundation of domains. The children, who were mumbling, began to stand on the reed. No, this was a joke from Gamamaru, and I held on with the help of chakra. But it was fun. Okay kids, I was joking, laughed the toad. Gamamaru-san, this isn't funny. Hagoromo scolded, and Hamura simply nodded. Okay, grab the planks and run to the peaks, this is the last stage. The guys with the enthusiast grabbed the planks and ran away. So another month passed, the children were already calmly entering the hermit mode, and Gamamaru was amazed. It took me about 3 months for this. As a result, in 7 months the boys mastered the hermit mode. Hagoromo, Hamura, the toad began, you beat your father's record, it took him 12 months to train, and you trained in 7. This is a new record, and in connection with this I award you the title of True Sage of Senjutsu, and I give you a contract to sign with us. The guys were wildly delighted. The next day we went into the real world. Bye, Gamamaru, I waved my hand at him. Goodbye, Gamamaru-san, the children shouted. Good luck, we heard before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Rinnegan and Tensegan. While we were gone, nothing happened to the village, which I am incredibly happy about. We returned at the same time as Kagaya and Yuri. The children ran off to share their impressions, and we stayed to drink tea and talk about what the children had learned. Naru, she began, Yuri has great potential in area ninjutsu, she can easily grow new limbs, and she can do all the same things that I can. Well, that's good, but the guys surpassed me, I started now, they mastered senjutsu in 7 months, unlike me. I grinned. Aren't you happy? Glad, of course I'm glad. There was an explosion, quite strong that even we were shaken. It happened in the place where the children were. I was there in a split second, and what I saw made me sink to the ground. Yuri's body was almost turned inside out, and Hagoromo was standing over him. He turned to me and the Rinnegan was burning in his eyes, after which he passed out. While I was looking at this picture, Hamura woke up, but when he saw Yuri's body, he immediately fell unconscious. Kagaya distracted me, I immediately turned her away and put her to sleep. After which I began to restore the body. For hours past, the body was completely restored, after transferring everyone to the house and began to resurrect. I put my hands on the girl's forehead, and a second later she opened her eyes. Dad, she squeaked in surprise, what happened? You just lost consciousness, I said, not telling the truth. What about the brothers? She looked at the boys I had laid on the futon. We're tired. And Mom? The girl persisted. He's also sleeping. It's clear. You go to bed late too. The girl lay down between the brothers, whose memory I erased. I think Hagoromo will get used to the eyes by tomorrow, but I didn't know about Hamura yet. Approaching Kagaya, I woke her up. Naru, she said sleepily, but remembering what happened to Yuri, she screamed, and I covered her mouth with my hand in time. Everything is fine, look, I pointed at Yuri, who was snoring between the brothers. Kagaya seemed to have calmed down. Glory to Kami. Let them go to sleep, they've been through a lot. I moved towards the exit. Once in the kitchen, I put the kettle on and started telling my theory of the explosion. Apparently Yuri wanted to show off the new seal and overdid it with the chakra. Why did you let her use it? Kagaya asked angrily. I told her that without me, the seals cannot be used except for barriers, I answered calmly. I see, Kagaya said tiredly and went to take the kettle off the stove, after which she poured water into the mugs and threw in the tea leaves. Hagoromo's Rinnegan has awakened, I continued speaking calmly. That's good, Kagaya said, already falling asleep. Come on, I'll take you to bed. I picked up Kagaya in my arms and carried her to the bedroom. Naru, you are so sweet, but she did not have time to finish and quietly began to snore. Having put my wife on the bed, I decided to go out for a smoke. Going out onto the terrace, I imagined a cigarette as it appeared in my hands, creating a slight flame on my finger. I lit it, took a drag and exhaled a cloud of smoke. The moon illuminated the sleeping village. There was no trace left of the explosion. I kept thinking about Rinnegan. On the one hand, it would be good for someone to replace me for people, since after the war I decided to go to a separate island with Yuri and Kagaya and from there observe the peace that my sons would bring. Having finished smoking, I went to bed. The next morning. I'm going sleep. My sons' voices woke me up. Wait, why don't they both have Rinnegan? Continuing to think as I ran, I flew into the room. Quiet! I shouted, flying into the room and began to calm the guys with Yuri. Kagaya flew in after me and took the baby. Mom, why did the brothers go blind? Yuri asked an innocent question. No, they didn't go blind. Kagaya said, leading Yuri away with her. Okay, slowly open your eyes. The guys began to open their eyelids, but screamed again. I see, my eyes haven't really adjusted yet, I finished. What kind of eyes? Hagoromo asked calmly. You'll find out soon, I said and put the guys to sleep. They still need to get used to the new eyes, but I just thought to myself, what kind of eyes are Hamura? When I entered the kitchen I was bombarded with questions, and after quickly answering them all I began to drink tea. Yuri, no stamps until the age of 12, I said sternly. Why? Yuri was perplexed. You almost blew everything up here, I continued sternly. I see, the girl said resentfully and ran off to her brothers. Aren't you being harsh with her? Kagaya asked, taking a sip from her mug. It has to be this way, and also we have to think about training the guys. I asked. And Hamura? Kagaya was surprised. Yes. It's most likely the Tensigan, Kagaya enlightened me. It's very similar to the Rinnegan, but unlike the Rinnegan, the Tensigan user can destroy the moon. Okay, we'll train, I smiled. Let's go to bed, I said sleepily and moved towards the bedroom. Let's go, she smiled. New opportunities and Otsutsuki's first attack The boys woke up the next day. They didn't feel any pain in their eyes, which was good. Hagoromo's eyes looked like mine, only without the tomo, and Hamura's eyes had a blue pupil surrounded by a white and pale blue flower-shaped iris. If I knew Hagoromo's abilities, then Hamura's were not. Kagaya said that she would take care of Hamura herself, so I wasn't worried. As soon as the boys came to, Kagaya and I took them as far away from the village as possible. I left a clone with Yuri. Having put up a powerful barrier, I began to tell the guys about their new eyes and their features. Hamura, Hagoromo, I began, you received 2 powerful dojutsu like me. Your mother will tell you about your Hamura eyes, and I will tell you about your Hagoromo eyes. So we have eyes like yours? Hagoromo asked. Yes and no, your eyes are like mine, but I don't really know anything about Hamura's eyes. I summed it up. I see, I'll ask my mom later, he smiled. Of course, I smiled back. And so about your eyes, you now own 6 paths, each path gives certain skills. The Deva path gives control over gravity, the Azure path with it you can turn your limbs into weapons, the human path with this ability you can suck out a person's soul and then read his thoughts, but after that the death of the victim, use it only as a last resort. The beast path you can summon any creatures, the Preta path can absorb any elemental techniques and any chakra except natural, otherwise it will turn into stone. The Naraka path with which you can summon and control the king of hell, and the last path the outer path with it you can revive people. Since the Geto Mazo will not be, then you cannot summon him. Hagoromo sat with his mouth open. And I can do all this? The guy asked in shock. Yes, and I will demonstrate these techniques to you. Hooray! He shouted. Let's start with the path of Deva. I pulled the block towards me, but as soon as there were less than 2 meters left, I pushed it away. The guy sat in shock. "You haven't seen the main thing yet," I grinned. Now the path of Azura, I turned my hand into a rocket of no greater range and launched it. Wow, was all the sun could say. The path of man, I caught a snake and put my hand on its head and sucked out its soul. This snake was crawling towards the nest in that tree over there. I pointed to a tree not far away. Path of the beast, I summoned a small dog and immediately recalled it. Path of Preta, use any ninjutsu, I said. Katan, fireball. Hagoromo quickly made seals and spat out a fireball. The path of Preta, I put my hand forward and the ball was gone. The path of Naraka, I folded the seals and the head of the king of hell appeared before us and then disappeared. And the last path, the path of Ghetto, I put my hand on the snake's head and a second later it jerked, hissed and crawled away to the tree. These are the possibilities of your new eyes. Cool. Hagoromo shouted. Today we are trying out the way of Tendo, I began. Hooray! The boy was still wild with delight. Stretch your hand out in front of you and imagine that you want this object. I pointed to the small stone, but you can't reach it, and just pull it towards you. Like this? A 2-meter-high boulder was flying towards us. Throw it out. I shouted as the stone suddenly fell. Dad, the boy asked excitedly. Well done, I praised him. Wow, he pulled a boulder instead of a pebble, very good. Now push it away. The guy stretched out his hand again and the boulder flew about 30 meters. Well done. We trained like this until the evening. We returned in the evening, me and an exhausted Hagoromo. Hamura looked no better. Mom, I'm so tired, Hagoromo said. You're not the only one, snorted Hamura. Go to the room, Yuri is already waiting for you. Kagyu said. As soon as the children left, we began to share our impressions. Hagoromo mastered one of the 7 paths in one day. Hamura's eyes also have paths, but there are 3 of them, Kagyu said. The Deva path, the Beast path, and the Ghetto path. I haven't seen anything else yet. Just like me at Hagoromo's, I finished. Everyone go to bed, Kagyu spoke and went to the nursery. I went out onto the terrace and again imagined a cigarette, then lit it, exhaling a cloud of smoke I thought. From this matter I was distracted by a powerful surge of chakra, then Kagyu came up. They? I asked. They, Kagyu said. A second later, we were gone. 30 kilometers from the village. As soon as we found ourselves in the place where the splash was, 5 Otsutsuki with activated Byakugan came out to meet us. Kagyu-sama, one of them said with disgust, like a goddess once did. Haki, what do you want? Kagyu snapped. We came to check the chakra fruit. He's gone, she chuckled. How? Otsutsuki yelled, making seals. Then Kagyu jumped behind me. Raitun, lightning discharge. Standing nearby, Otsutsuki also began to form seals. Suetun, big wave. I put out my hand and calmly absorbed the attack. Oh, you're screwed, the first one didn't calm down. Raitun, electric fong. Techniques like never before. My turn, I grinned. There was one Gudadama behind me, after which I sent him flying. Ha ha ha, laughed Otsutsuki, this ball won't lie to us, but then it crumbled into dust. Freak, shouted the other 4 and began to fold the seals. Raitun, storm of the thunder dragon. Suetun, cutting jet. Futon, vacuum bullets. Kato, great fire destruction. Joint attack? Interesting. I created 4 Gudadams and launched them, causing the enemies to disintegrate before they could use the devil techniques, and one managed to bounce back, and here you go, a paralysis seal and the guy went limp. After which I began the interrogation. How many of you are there? I asked calmly. Fuck you, he hissed. Wrong answer. I created a Gudadama on my hand. Seeing the scary ball, he spoke. About 500, he hissed. How long will it take for them to arrive? After 30 to 40 years, Mama Shiki gives everyone chakra pills to take over the earth. Why is there less and less time? I asked anxiously. Yes, Otsutsuki finished. Okay, go, I said, to Shinigami, after which I sent a Gudadama at him. Aren't you taking it off too harshly? Kagaya asked. Shinigami thinks I'm compassionate, I proved that I'm not very. I smiled and we were no longer there. In a bright place. Ahahahaha, well finally he sent souls to me, laughed Shinigami. Well, he only does that to enemies, so expect a lot of souls in your stomach. The goddess smiled. Yes, he's a good guy, but I never liked those bitches, finished the god of death. Ahahahahaha, the goddess burst into laughter. Equals 10 years later and the beginning of the war. Equals 10 years have passed since the first attack of Otsutsuki. During this time the children have honed their control so much that they even surpassed Kagaya, and she was in second place after me. Hagoromo and Hamura calmly used their eyes and upon reaching 12 years old began to patrol the borders of the village with me. After 15 years they patrolled on their own. Otsutsuki sometimes appeared, but they were not strong, so the guys quickly destroyed them. Yuri skillfully learned to handle seals, she also acquired Doton, Keton and Futon. The guys also manifested other elements. Kagaya was very worried when the guys went on patrol, but I calmed her down by saying that if something happened to them, then I would be near them in an instant. I also took up the habit of smoking a cigarette before going to bed on the terrace. And at one of these moments there was such a powerful surge of chakra that Kagaya, who came out, staggered, and the children following her fainted. It's begun, Kagaya whispered. Bring the children to their senses and stay in the village, I ordered her. Okay, she said and went to wake up the children. Kagaya never argued with me, but she expressed her opinion. Not far from the village. When I arrived at the place, I saw 50 Otsutsuki with quite strong chakra. It was he who killed our brothers, shouted a boy who looked about 18 years old. Yes, we will destroy him in one blow, he has chakras like me or like Curry, said a man who looked about 25 years old. What idiots, said the girl who looked like Kagaya. He has so much chakra that we are like beetles in front of a mountain compared to him. She finished. You're lying, look, said the 18-year-old boy and folded the seals. Futon, wind blades, 5 blades flew at me, but in that same second they were gone. I threw one and the Gudadama guy crumbled into dust. The idiot spoke, but then she was interrupted by the utterance of the technique. Don't even think about it. But she didn't have time and the man was gone. Calm down, she growled, you idiots, we were ordered to deliver a message, he's lying, I felt it. You forgive them, taking out a scroll, she handed it to me. Why so many Otsutsuki? I asked calmly, accepting the scroll. So there is no seal explosion. Mamashiki Dano knows your strength and that's why he sent them as guards, the girl said cautiously. I understand, I answered shortly. Opening the scroll, I noticed a hidden opening with a gas of an unknown composition. Having understood their plan, I gave in and as soon as the opening opened, I passed out. A girl and 2 Otsutsuki came up to me. 2 tried to lift me up, but it didn't work, I strengthened my body with steel. The girl leaned over me, but then bang and her head was reduced to dust. Retreat! A tall man of about 45 years old yelled and ran away from me, but it was not to be. Throwing a Gudadama at him I watched with pleasure as he crumbled. Well, I'll get used to throwing Gudadama. The rest of the Otsutsuki quickly made seals and disappeared. I realized that I had nothing more to do here and immediately found myself home. Uzumaki House Terrace. Returning home I saw the children snoring on the sleeping Kagaya. I quietly approached and took the children and carried them to the bedroom. Returning I saw standing at the stove. How did it go? She asked without looking up. Well, I think the war has already begun, because they have no more chakra left. We are ready. I had no doubt, I smiled. Let's go to bed, I'm so tired, she said sleepily. You're not alone. I picked up my wife and carried her towards the bedroom. On planet Mamashiki. I see he gave you a real beating, said a 20-year-old guy. Mamashiki Dano, this is a real monster. What did you want? He asked in surprise. He merged with Shinju, he didn't absorb him. But you too, the guy said quietly. Yes, but I gave it to you, you crazy idiots, Mamashiki said irritably. Father, are the golems ready? Yes, son, answered the 2-meter-tall brute with his face covered. Great, get ready to open the portals, Mama Shiki said with a predatory smile. Eat. Wait for me, Naruto Uzumaki, he whispered and stepped into one of the portals that opened in front of him. War on two fronts. The next morning, Hagoromo and Hamura went on patrol, and Yuri went to practice elemental techniques. Kagaya was very excited about the war that had begun, as was I. I decided not to delay and began strengthening the barriers. The structure of the barriers was as follows: the first was an illusion, the second was protection from the Byakugan, and the third was protection from any elemental techniques. So for the Otsutsuki, this was just a clearing. The day passed quietly, but in the evening the boys returned very battered, but whole. They told me that portals began to open 50 kilometers away and living stone blocks came out of them, and then Otsutsuki. That's why the boys returned so battered, I thought. After eating, we went to bed. I woke up from chakra surges almost all over the continent. The kids quickly figured out what was what and went to the weaker sources of chakra, and we to the most powerful ones. 100 kilometers from the village. The Otsutsuki appeared on a huge scorched territory and finished off the last people. Let them go, I shouted. Who are you? Asked the guy who was finishing off the survivors. The one who will destroy you, and that's it, I answered. Try it, he grinned. Kato, Phoenix Flowers. Several small fireballs flew at me. I dodged and noticed shurikens flying at me. Shadow shurikens and 1,000 shurikens flying at me. Ha, that was easy, he rejoiced. Doton, Stone Burial Otsutsuki was crushed by a layer of earth. The remaining warriors did not hesitate and pounced on me. Kagaya took on about 100 Otsutsuki and already destroyed half. 3 began to press on me in Kenjutsu, having created a staff from Gudadama. I began to fight back, strangely, but their swords do not crumble from contact with the staff. 2 were already killed, and the third was stubborn. Suetun, Shark's Mouth. A shark flew at me with an open mouth from which 3 projectiles flew out. I repelled them with a staff. A trap flashed through my mind. So it was. Raitun, Lightning Discharge. His clone shouted. It hit hard, but he destroyed the clone. Doton, Stone Bullets, the guy was a bloody mess. Then the earth shook and I saw 5 huge boulders coming at us. Hagoromo's POV. Hamura, Yuri, and I ran north from the village. Hagoromo, do you sense chakra? My brother asked me. Several hundred strong foci, I did not hide. And the boulders? He asked. I haven't observed it yet. Are we sure we can handle this? Yuri asked. Dad will help, he smiled. Arriving at the place, we saw rare people trying to resist Otsutsuki, but what can ordinary people do to them? Hamura wrapped himself in turquoise chakra armor. Yuri took out the seal explosion, and I prepared for battle. Suetun, Cutting Stream, Yuri shouted to drive Otsutsuki away from the peasant. So, are we going to fight? She asked, warming up her knuckles. Into battle, we answered without thinking. About 30 wide-eyed ones ran towards us, making seals along the way. Watch out, this is a combination attack. Kato, All-Consuming Flame. Futon, Cutting Stream. Suetun, Water Projectiles. Raiten, Lightning Strike. Doton, Burial. 5 Otsutsuki shouted. An interesting combination, and it has no weaknesses. First, fire destroys weak opponents, then the wind, as soon as it dies down, heats it up to high temperatures and it finishes off the survivors. Lightning and water destroy the miraculously surviving ones, and the earth buries them. A second and the technique is gone. He can also absorb techniques like that one, the fat Otsutsuki shouted. His son is an idiot, shouted the second one, but he has much less chakra than his father, finished the same man. It's time to have some fun, I smiled predatorily. Yuri has already set up traps long ago, so victory is in our pocket. I thought. And Hagoromo's POV. Holy shit. I cursed, but the golems weren't as weak as I thought. Kagaya kept laying out Otsutsuki in batches, she even destroyed one golem, but her chakra was running low. I destroyed 3, the Otsutsuki mostly attacked Kagyu, but there weren't many of them left, and the golem seemed to be exhausted. I thought it was time. Right-ton, thunderous destruction, a huge stream of lightning flew out of the mouth, destroying the golem. Gudadama did not take them, which is strange. Kagyu also laid down the last ones. Then one barely alive Otsutsuki whispered that it was cannon fodder and died. I'm exhausted, Kagyu muttered tiredly. Damn, it was just cannon fodder. So they'll come even stronger? She asked, still tired. Apparently, okay. Quickly to the children, I grabbed Kagyu and we were gone. Finding ourselves on the battlefield, we were presented with a horrifying picture. Hagoromo was holding back at least 10 Otsutsuki from the unconscious bodies of Yuri and Hamura. I flew into them at full speed, wrapped in armor made of lightning chakra. 2 wide-eyed ones were gone, the other 8 switched to taijutsu. Having intercepted the blow, I sent one of them flying, the other 2 used tenketsu block, but I broke their arms. One wanted to attack from behind and immediately lost his ribs, the rest I simply incinerated. As soon as the children came to our senses, we were home. As soon as we returned, the children passed out, just like Kagyu. When I went out onto the terrace, I also imagined a cigarette, lighting it from a small flame on my finger and taking a drag. I began to think. If this was cannon fodder, then what kind of true fighters Momoshiki would be? Then I realized that I would find out now. On the terrace, there was a smoldering cigarette and a lonely moon in the sky. Momoshiki and Kinshiki. I found myself in a large burned-out clearing. A completely dried-out tree was visible in the distance. Continuing my inspection, I noticed golems standing quietly and some kind of device that looked like a generator, and a little over 100 Otsutsuki were moving towards me. These were several times stronger than their brothers, both in chakra and in the physical plane. But my main attention was drawn to a figure almost 2 meters tall with a skinny boy on his shoulder. Naruto Uzumaki. The guy on the shoulder began to broadcast, "You must give us your chakra and we will spare you." He finished. "No," I answered harshly. "Then you will die, father, figure it out," he said to the big guy. "With pleasure, Mr. Momoshiki," he thundered, activating the Byakugan. The red thing behind his back separated and turned into a hammer. "Well, let's dance, just hold your mongrels," I answered with disgust, pointing at the 100 Otsutsuki. "Don't interfere." The man finished and flew at me. I didn't even have time to create a staff before I flew back about 100 meters. "Good hit," I praised him and created a staff and flew at him. A hit and I fly away again. Time to activate the Sage mode. A split second and my strength increased many times, only it was becoming more and more difficult to collect energy since there was almost nothing alive left here. While I was thinking about what to start collecting energy from, a hammer was already flying at me. Dodging, I flew at the giant. While he held back my onslaught, I managed to strike, from which Otsutsuki flew a good 200 meters. Without hesitation, I flew up and decided to kick him, but he intercepted and slammed me to the ground so hard that stars appeared. Having recovered, I switched to taijutsu, but thanks to my eyes, I blocked all attacks. The fight had been going on for quite a while. Otsutsuki had given me a good beating, but he'd lost almost all his chakra. I was pretty battered, but I'd spent a little less chakra than he had. "Good boy," the big guy grinned, breathing heavily. "You too," I said. "Stop chatting, father, I don't need you anymore, but you will serve as my nourishment." The skinny one yelled and flew towards us. "Yes sir," he boomed. Momoshiki flew up and put his hand forward, but I did it faster and the whole big guy ended up as a small fruit in my hand. "Give it back, pathetic worm," the skinny one squeaked, almost crying. I quickly ate the fruit and felt the chakra pouring into me in tons. "You will die," he yelled, and without any seals threw me a huge cloud of dense energy. Damn it, I couldn't dodge it. Putting my hand forward, I began to absorb this power. I thought I would be torn apart by this monstrous force, but no, having absorbed the technique, I saw Momoshiki's withered corpse in front of me. "What an idiot," I cursed. "He used up all the chakra he had," I continued yelling, not noticing the stunned Otsutsuki. "He killed him," all the Otsutsuki whispered. "Shut up," I barked. "What kind of device is this?" Go to hell, there's a brave man out there. You just lost your rights, not to the gods, but you are asserting your rights. I intimidated them. Portal generator, a boy of about 20 said uncertainly, but unlike the other Otsutsuki, he had red hair. What is your name and why do you have red hair? I asked. I don't know, but his name is Yaki. It's clear that this is a dead end. I'll take him with me. I will confiscate the portal and Yaki, you are coming with me. And what about us? The Otsutsuki screamed at the same time. I'll leave you 1 week chakra fruit, enough to bring the planet back to life, and then it's not my problem. Having sealed the installation and grabbed the boy under my arm, I went home. Since it was night outside, and the cigarette lying there had almost burned out, I dare to assume that about 5 minutes had passed in the real world. Okay, I need to go to bed. I put the boy to sleep and placed him in a scroll. I put the scroll with the generator under the protection of the seals, and now it's time to sleep. I woke up quite late. Kinshiki's power had already settled down, so I felt great. Going downstairs, I didn't find Kagaya and the children and made myself some coffee. As soon as I poured the coffee, Kagaya and the children flew into the house. Good morning, I smiled at them. Good, the children shouted. Dad, did you know that all the portals are closed? Asked Yuri. Yes, it was me who closed them. Mama Shiki is dead, I said. How? Kagaya began, and when? Last night, I was called and I found myself on their